his shirt was ironed, everything was. He was ready to work as a valet, or I'm saying he was so well dressed, he was ready to go to work as a, like for the King of England or something. So at the end of the day, now he was a soldier from Venezuela, and what happened to him? His mother brought him to this country, United States, and he went to the high school, went back home at the end of the day, and told his mother that that is a zoo. I am not going to go to school here. That is not a real school, because he had gone to a, I'm not sure if public or what, but he had gone to a school in Venezuela, and there is discipline over there. There is decency. So I don't know if he finished school or what he did, but when I met him, he was 20. I was older than him, but he was 22, and he appeared to be more manly or something. But he had joined the military. So what happened to him was he was maybe 16 years old, and he went back to Venezuela just to try out, to go to his brother's wedding. And he was inside a store trying out a tuxedo when the soldiers came for him. And his mother started to cry, started to say, no, he lives in the United States. Oh, the soldiers answered. He was trying to get away from our country, our what they call it, our military service. And so then the mother was crying, and he said, I was so young and in shock that I didn't even know. I just wasn't crying. I was just frozen. And so he said, don't worry, mother, I'll be all right. And so he spoke some English by then. And maybe he was 18, I'm not too sure. But he said, I was a kid brain. He didn't say exactly the word kid brain, but that's what he meant. So then they gave him a red thing for his uniform that he would wear on the sleeve. I'm not sure if on both sleeves or just one. But that meant that he was brought in. He was not enlisted by himself. He was not voluntary. He was grabbed from the street. And so he pretended he was sick. He doesn't know exactly where he is, but he was pretending he was sick. He went to see the doctor, and then he explained to the doctor that he wasn't sick, that he had put soap in his eyes, and that the soldiers had simply, now this was an army doctor, or maybe it wasn't, but the point is, he was telling him that I was abducted, and that I just want to get to the airport so I can get out of the country. Call his mother and get out of the country. And so, by the way, his mother was Indian descendant in Venezuela. With he described her hair, flowing hair, and his dad, he said, was a black man, but he said he was so black that he was really purple, so dark. And so he said he was, of course, he was weird. He looked black, some black features, but he was white-skinned, or more like Spanish, dark-skinned Spanish, half. He was obviously what he was. And so then he explained to the doctor, but right outside the doctor's door was what he called it, a soldier. And the doctor went out and told the soldier everything. And so this young man, the valet, he ran away. And then he said, uh, of course, the soldier caught him. And then he had to wear the red sleeves or something. That, but he said after about 4 years, I mean, after a year, I liked it, and I had a commanding presence. He said, and people would obey me and things like that. He was a leader of the group, and sometimes his friends would die and things like that. When he was working on the border, Colombia and Venezuela, and he said we had a rule: always go out with $5 in your pocket, and always smell like something. Put some cologne on. And then he mentioned how he would go to a football game or something, and he was, or for some reason there was a fence, and he used to say, could you go get me a sandwich or something, and he would give them money, and he would be waiting on the fence. He was maybe on some kind of guard duty, and people would come back, but then they would move him, and so like he said, even if they waited an hour for me or 2 hours, for some reason, I'm not sure what was going on. Maybe he was on duty, some sort of duty. And then he talked about how he scared his buddy, and well, they scared each other because they had to do the cemetery watch. Something was happening in the cemeteries, and so they had to. And he said that they just closed their eyes all night because there were so many scary things happening. And it was just their imagination, but and they were shivering, and the mosquitoes were getting to them, and so that's when he started smoking cigarettes to keep the smoke. Apparently keeps the mosquitoes away. That's his theory. I don't know. And so the next thing that happened was in the United States, his sister was a strip dancer, strip dancer, polo dancer, and she was so beautiful that she had married the owner of the club, the son of the owner of the club, and he said that he didn't. My friend again, the valet, he said he didn't have a car, so he was on bicycle sometimes and on the bus, and that he was learning to fly airplanes, and that it would probably take him 8 years to be able to get his pilot license since he was not in the military in the United States. And he mentioned how to make a bank deposit of his paycheck, since it was after hours, he could only go through the drive-thru. And so the lady at the bank told him that, I'll take it this time, but don't walk through here. This is only for cars. And so that was 1 week, and then 2 weeks later he had to do that again, but she had told him, so he ordered a taxi, and he went through and paid for the now we lived on the beach, and there were a bunch of taxis, so he went through and paid just to deposit his paycheck. He would go on the taxi, and he mentioned how the military had helped him be creative in thinking, because they said that when he was afraid, they had made him fight against all of his friends. And he said, so the fight lasted about 2 seconds when he first started, because it was all of them against him, and then instantly he would go down on the floor and just cover up. And he said after a while, that experience, he knew who was going to hit first. He just knew what was going to happen, and so he knew how to run away from them. And it was not by running in a straight line with all of them against him, because he was in a circle type of thing. They were surrounded, or he was surrounded. And so he said that he could get up to at least 20 seconds before he went down on the floor.
said it took away my fear, and it felt pretty good to punch some of them. It was like, oh yeah, I know you're the first one, so he would actually step in and punch the other guy before the other guy punched him first. Um, so he told me that they taught him to be creative in the military because one time they told him to get inside a beer bottle, and he was like, how in the world am I supposed to get inside a beer bottle? And if he couldn't do it, he had some sort of punishment. And that they had stopped the punishments because one of them had snapped his neck. The punishment was to take off his cap, which looked like an army cap from the United States, and fold it, put it on the floor, spread his legs like and put his hands behind his butt, behind clasp, and then put his head on top of that cap on the floor between his legs. Right? So he would end up looking like a tripod. And he said that one guy busted his neck and died, or whatever happened to him. And so after that, they were told to do that against the wall and step 2 feet away from the wall, spread your legs, and put the thing on your forehead, the cap, and then just lean into it. So another time he told me how he caught a guy that had raped a girl and a woman with the girl. And he said it had to be him because of the description, and he was the only one around, and he was drunk. And so he said that my friend got tired of beating the guy, and beating him and beating him and beating him. And he told the woman, I'm not beating him for you. I'm beating him for the little girl because she was only 10 years old or something. And so of course, he couldn't report that he had beat the guy so badly. He said the trick was his friends or his also army people, right? His group, they put some not pillows, but the mattress, put it against the wall, and then just hold the guy against the wall with the mattress, and then just hit it